All right, everyone. Alex Tam here of Zephyr Equity Group with Rocky here today. Every day we want to come on and answer questions about multifamily real estate investing, questions that, investors really have, and try to tackle some of these questions. What do we got today, Rocky? What are we going to talk about? I'm excited.
Right. And actually, today it's going to be a continuation of the things that we talked about in the previous episode. And if you haven't watched that yet, we're going to put the link below to that previous episode. And on that episode, we talked about, what multifamily properties are, the benefits of investing to a multifamily property. So today we are going to continue talking about the risks involved when it comes to multifamily investments. You mentioned that in the last episode as well. How do we combat that fear? And, what are the questions that we should ask before we
Oh,
start
yeah. I mean, this is great.
investing?
So here's some risks. We're going to
Mhm.
start off with the bad, start off with the negatives, and then hit you guys with the good, right? So there's always,
Yeah.
anytime when you have an investment, there's always a risk of losing money. Okay. And how do you lose money? Well, number one, if your operator that purchased the apartment did not buy it correctly, right? Did not buy this multifamily correctly. So within multifamily, you have to make sure you do three things. You have to buy right, finance right, and manage right. These three are the key things. These are the three pillars that you have to have, right? So buy right. So how can not buying correctly affect it? So maybe when they did their due diligence, the buyer did not catch something. They didn't do it correctly, right? Or possibly they overestimated what the rents were going to be in the finances. Maybe they didn't secure a interest rate that was really, really good, and they just overpromise. Some people do that, right? You have people who are going to
Yeah.
overpromise, but then they underdeliver, right? You got to tell people the truth. That's the thing. We analyze deals that are a lot more conservative because I want to make sure that we don't overpromise, but I want to overdeliver, right? See, we don't want to sell ourselves short either. We don't want to underpromise. We're just going to tell people this is what our conservative numbers are. This is what the numbers are going to be. You see? Now, the thing is, if they're not buying it right and they're not financing it right, then already you're in a hole. You see? Well, the third thing is, if they bought it right, they financed it right, but they didn't manage it right, which means that you can have a property manager who's terrible at what they're doing. Maybe they're spending money without you. Maybe they're not leasing things up correctly. Now, that's not going to cause you to lose money necessarily, but it might not cause you to earn money either. Now you're just having money parked there for no reason because they did not manage it correctly. Of course, there are the things that, a building might burn down or a hurricane might come and hit it, earthquake might happen, right? Well, that's why you have insurance. Insurance protects the value of the building to make sure that if anything were to happen, right, you get to recuperate and you get to rebuild. The goal of operators like what we do is to make sure that we are buying it correctly. We're doing our due diligence and underwriting, getting the right people involved to look at the structural integrity of the building, make sure the units, that we are able to renovate and flip are done correctly. The estimates are done correctly, right? You got to look at what's done, the timeline. You have to look at who's financing it. Is our interest rate? Do we have the right rate? Are we using a bridge loan, which could only be used for like 24 to, say maybe 60 months at a certain interest rate? And are we predicting the future interest rates to go up or down? Did we predict it correctly? Right? These are all the ways that we're able to look at a deal to make sure that we are handling it correctly. Operators matter so much. I can't stress that enough. People ask me all the time, hey, Alex, where are you interested in investing? I said, yeah, where I invest is important. Of course, you want to always invest in a growing area where companies are moving and population's growing, right? But the more important thing is who are the people running the operation? Because bad operators can take a great deal and run it to the ground, but good operators to take a so-so deal and make it skyrocket. So it really depends where it goes from there.
Yeah. And what are the questions that I should ask these operators before I even put my money
Yeah,
there?
that's a great question. I think one of the first things that anyone can ask for is the underwriting. Underwriting, that's why as an investor, you have to, I call it trust and verify. Trust and verify means that you have to trust the people that you're working with. Then you have to verify what they're talking about. Like, is it true? Have them show you the numbers. Like, how do you know the rents are going to go up by that much? How do you predict that the growth is going to be that much? Is it based on history, or are you just pulling it out of thin air? Yeah. So that's really, really important is you have to ask, number one, hey, can you show me your underwriting? Don't be afraid to say, can you show me the numbers of how you got there? How did you predict the rents, right? The future rents are going to be that. How do you know that the construction is going to cost this much, right? How do you know how much per apartment? Maybe the same exact apartment is being purchased for, say, $100,000 a door, right? Within the last 2-3 months. But then the same thing, you're now buying it at $120 a door, $120,000 a door, 20% more. How do you justify that? Maybe are there things that we don't know about? Where do they come up with these numbers? And ask them, hey, what's the growth, on this? And how do we know we can grow at that same rate? How do they know? Maybe you don't know. Maybe you do know, right? So it really depends. Those are some of the questions I will ask. One thing you could also ask is, how are we going to get our money? How are you going to get returns, right? When are the returns coming back? Are you guys doing a refinance? Who's going to decide whether you refinance or not? Are you eventually going to sell the whole place? Or are you eventually going to keep refinancing? And if you continue to refinance, now there's no money in the deal and you get infinite returns. You see? So ask the operators these questions because it's your money as an investor going into it. As the operators, they should be able to answer all these questions. Now, here's the thing. You'll know the good operators or not by the way they answer these questions. Because if an operator is feeling like, or the way they answer your question is that they think that, oh my God, here you are asking these questions all over again. And then they don't want to, you make it, they feel like, or you feel like they don't really want to answer these questions. Well, then you can only know how good of operators they're going to be. That means as operators, they might not even answer these questions in the long run, right? So that's what's going to ultimately happen. So those are the questions that I would ask.
Yeah, and it's very important, to really ask these questions because, again, it's your money, right? You've worked for it for a very long time. And, we really have to know everything. So I guess my last question, Dr. Tam, is do I need to involve any other professionals before I invest?
You can. You can always
Like a
ask
lawyer,
your friends.
probably.
You can always ask an attorney, ask your CPA, just to verify some of the benefits, right? Some of the benefits, potential benefits could be that you don't have to pay taxes on the earnings because of the depreciation, the potential depreciation. So a lot of people end up not paying taxes on what they earn, right? But of course, always talk to your CPA, your attorney, right? Other friends, ask the realtors. We say it's in a great area. How do you verify it? Maybe look at the crime map and really see, hey, if there's killings and assaults and all that, battery within a 100-yard radius of that, then maybe this is a war zone, what we call a war zone. You don't want to invest. Well, some people do. We just don't invest in war zones. I want to invest in places where I feel safe taking my family to, not a place where you have to wear a bulletproof vest to.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you again, Alex, rather,
Yeah.
for joining us today and giving us all these tips and tricks in starting a realty business. So
Absolutely.
thank you, and have a
You
great
too.
day.
Thanks, Rocky.